Okay, so welcome to this session called 20 Potential Digital Tools for Online Teaching. So my name is Ryan Schaaf. I'm an Associate Professor of Educational Technology. I teach in the School of Education. And ever since this pandemic started, I've been trying to help and support not only the instructors in the School of Education, but basically anybody that needs help at Notre Dame as a community. So this way that we could help to teach during the pandemic and our move to distance learning throughout the semester. If you have any questions during this session, you are more than welcome to enter it into the chat feature. There's a little button. It should be probably in the bottom, and it should say chat. You can type it in there. I'll try to answer it within a few minutes of you posting something. If you are if you have your audio open, you're more than welcome to stop me. Just try and do it like between slides, so this way I can edit it out of the main recording. So we're going to get started. Before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that although Jewel, this is kind of like the sunset for Jewel. We're using it for one more semester before we move into a new learning management system, Brightspace. I will say this, Jewel does have a lot of tools for good online learning. It will allow you to hold discussions. It'll let you share links. It'll let you collect assignments online and be able to send that information back. If you have any more questions about Jewel or any other the sessions I had on Zoom, I'll show you a little bit about Zoom as well. Just follow up with me after our presentation. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know I've tried to select tools that are, number one, are free. That is, that they're not going to cost money for an instructor or the student to use. So I tried my best to pick free stuff. It's not always perfect. There are other tools out there that you could potentially research, but I found 20 that I thought could benefit any instructor. And sometimes it's like a smorgasbord. Sometimes you find really good tools that I'll share, and some of the tools are of no interest to you, and that is absolutely fine as well. Just be cognizant as most of these tools are going to be third-party tools. That is, that IT and the FRC, the Faculty Resource Center, aren't going to be able to support you if you have problems. Although these tools that I'm going to share with you are going to be pretty pressure tested, they will, you will be kind of on your own to facilitate the instructional implementation of these tools. However, if you need help, you can always look up useful tutorials, online guides, or, and most of the tools I picked are pretty user-friendly. So you can select what you want, potentially consider adopting it, and if not, then, discard it or try and find another tool that'll suit your purpose. Okay, so we're going to get started with tools right away. Okay, so the first tool I have is called ELink. ELink allows an instructor to gather web links to online resources. For each one, ELink pulls the title of the resource from the website, plus an image from the site, or you can even upload your own. Okay, you can also add your own comment to each link. So ELink is an all-in-one content curation tool that helps you gather and curate information around a specific topic from anywhere on the web and add your own descriptions, or what they call a voice to it. So let's say you're doing a section on British literature. You can find all these different resources online on British literature. You can find a YouTube clip. You can find a web article. You can find a Wikipedia article. You can find pretty much anything that's online, hosted on a website. You can find and add to these ELink pages. ELink is free. Once you're done creating it, it allows you to then share a customized link to your template, to this page of all these curated links. The nice thing is it doesn't require you to you don't have to add any coding or do anything special. Once you go to ELink, you pretty much find the links, give them titles, put them onto a page, and then share that page with your students. You can put it onto Joule, you can email it to them. There's a lot of different suggestions. So I do have, let's see if I can get this up here for you to see. Now my window, I may have to stop sharing and then reshare with my new window here. Let's see, here we are. Hit share. And here is an example of Greenland melting. And what they've done is the person that created this, it's just basically a holding page, but it provides resources. This is sciencealert.com, Edition CNN, so CNN clips, YouTube clips, Time Magazine, The Atlantic. So all these different resources are all curated around Greenland melting. So that is potentially something that you can consider using. Again, ELink's free to go there. I think it's, let me stop sharing and then go back to my screen share and show you exactly what looks like. Here we are. There we go. It's elink.io to get to the ELink tool. All right, so that's potentially something, and I will make sure to share this later on with you all. Okay. Okay, next tool is good old Zoom. So Zoom is, its popularity has really just taken off ever since the pandemic started, because it is like a one-stop shop for video conferencing. It allows big groups to connect and hold these video conferencing sessions all at once. Notre Dame did purchase a bunch of pro accounts. Now, the difference between a basic account, let's say you go to Zoom, you sign up, and you get a basic account. The basic account will allow you to hold between a 30 and 40-minute Zoom session with up to 100 folks. The issue is that short amount of time. Now, some people make that work. What they might do is, if an instructor doesn't want to hold like a long synchronous activity, what an instructor might do is just have that 30-minute session where they just basically present directions and resources in which they require their students to work on. So then they dismiss them to go and do their offline work or their asynchronous work. However, as I said before, Notre Dame did purchase a bunch of pro accounts. You have to work through the FRC and go through, I think the requests are going through your dean or your chair. So once you have a pro account, that changes things quite a bit. Number one, that 30 to 40-minute window actually gets increased almost. I think the technical limit, I think it's unlimited, the length of time you can have for this meeting. I typically suggest not going more than just 2 or 3 hours on a meeting on any single point, because people can suffer from Zoom fatigue. It's a lot different than speaking, in like a social setting, or even having one simple Skype conversation between you and another person. When you're up, when you're being the sage on stage or the guy on the side, whenever you're doing this online type of facilitation, it takes a lot out of you psychologically. So please just be cognizant of that as you host synchronous sessions, and also as you hold them for your students, that it's a different type of conversation, and it can be very taxing for people. But anyway, these pro accounts will take up to 300 people. And again, you go about setting up a meeting. You share the link or the invitation with your students. It's just a simple link that they click on to access it. You can password protect it. This way, if you want to provide them with a PIN number to enter, it adds an extra blanket of security onto the conversation with your students. Once they're in, they can pretty much join you through a laptop or through an iPad or even their phone. If they become desperate, they're able to join. While they're on Zoom, there's a lot of different features that they can use. Number one, there's a great chat box that allows you to enter content into it. You can type text, ask questions. You can have them doing a back channel where they're asking questions as you're doing a lecture. You can also add files in the chat feature to where they can actually access files. So if you have notes that you want to share with them, you can give them the notes. Other things that you can do, you can poll them. You can create polls, ask them certain questions. If you want to ask them an opening question or a closing question, you're able to do that. You're able to create breakout rooms. That is, you're able to take, say, for instance, you have a class of like 15 people. You're able to break them up into whatever amount of breakout rooms you have. So let's say I create 5 rooms. If it's 15 people, I might break them up into 3 attendants in each room. The nice thing is once they're in breakout rooms, they can answer questions, they can have these small discussions, but you can also go and visit them and make sure they're on task, and that if they have any questions or they need any insights, you can work with them. You can leave their room and come back, or you can go visit all 5 rooms. So that's called the breakout room feature. It's very friendly. Some other things, you can share whiteboards. You can allow your students to share their screens as well. You can share your screen and run a slide deck like I'm doing right now with you. You see the slide deck in front of you. You're able to share it, so you can you can actually do a traditional lecture, but you can also then ask questions and have them discuss it in these breakout rooms. You can incorporate other tools that I'm sharing right now, such as using Joule to provide links to different resources, Google Docs and stuff, which I'll talk about shortly. So Zoom is really large, and of course it'll record it for you. Right now I'm recording this and I'll share it later on YouTube. I will say this is, as you record these, if you record these, they are really large files. They're large movie files, which you don't really want to host on Joule because it could be a problem for downloading. So a lot of times when somebody will record something, what they'll do is they'll host it on YouTube. YouTube has unlimited space. You can typically host it on YouTube, or you can contact the FRC. You can contact Krissa, and she would be able to help you to find if you want to host it and put it up online. So anyway, that is Zoom. It's a great tool. It's really come in handy throughout this pandemic, but please use it wisely, as in don't overburden people with long video classes. I would say not more than just a 2.5 hours. Please don't keep them there. Give them constant bio breaks, and also diversify what type of activities you do in these video conferences. So this way they don't just turn off the video and try and have a nap. The next one is Weebly. Weebly is a free place where you can go and actually create your own web page. Now, I will say Joule allows you to create some web pages. However, as we know, Joule is getting ready to be sunsetted in January. Weebly is free for educators, where you can actually create your own web page. So let's say, for instance, you have a course. I teach gaming and society for the honors program. Maybe instead of, I have all this great content, but I want to put it someplace online to where I can just point my students to this place and click it. Weebly will walk pretty much anybody through creating a web page for free. It takes you step by step. You don't have to be an expert in coding or doing anything like that. If you go to Weebly for educators, it's free. Very useful. And again, it can in some ways help to substitute like large pages of content or slide PowerPoint presentations or something like that. It might come in helpful. And it's also an excuse if you ever wanted to build a web page. It's fairly user friendly. It's free. Let's see, it's a web platform, but it's also available on iOS and Android. So if you have an iPad, you can use Weebly. If you have an Android, if you have Google types of tools, you can build on it. Google also has Sites, which is also another way to build free and cheap web pages that are really nice. I've used Google Sites pretty extensively for the professional development schools and the School of Education need to provide a lot of documents to students or to teachers that are outside of the Notre Dame bubble, so they can't really access Joule. So the way to do that is we use Google Sites, where we're able to share documents with them easily. Anyway, so Weebly and Google Sites are something to consider for web page development. Just looking, I don't think I have any questions in the chat so far. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Okay, so let's say you find something online that you really love and you want to share with students. However, maybe you've gone someplace and you've seen that the URL address, the web link, is like 500 characters long, like this example right here. It's really long. You don't really want to share that on a screen. You don't really want students to look at that. What you can do is find a tool that'll make it into a tiny URL address. It makes it easy for if you have to post something on a PowerPoint slide, if you have to share it, in a discussion post, or if you have to do something, send it through email. Tiny URL will take those gigantic URL addresses, the ones with hundreds of characters, and it'll shrink it down to a much more manageable size. All you do is you take the long URL address, and it'll make a new tiny URL for you. And the nice thing is there's no sign up needed. So all you do is you go to this tool, and it'll make a small URL for you. And you copy and paste that and share that with students instead. This is probably one of the easier tools to use, especially if you're going to use PowerPoint, if you're going to use an online learning environment. You don't want to share these gigantic links. They are eyesores, and they have a very easy, it's very easy to accidentally break them, as in part of it functions, part of it doesn't. What it'll do is it'll take you someplace that doesn't exist, and you'll just get a bad link. So changing it to a custom short link may benefit you in the future. So anyway, it's called Tiny URL. Okay, so Padlet. So this is a synchronous tool where basically you go to Padlet and you sign up to create a Padlet. Is basically like an online corkboard or a collaborative space. Students can share notes, they can share pictures, files, links to other places. It's basically making like a collaborative space where students can basically create their own content. You can hold online discussions that are different than Joule on here. There's a lot of different ideas. You can curate resources very easily. Like for instance, if I had if this was an interactive presentation, I could have you share a bunch of the different digital tools that you like, and we could all do it on a Padlet where we can all share this. The only thing you have to give to your students is a link to the Padlet wall that you're going to provide to them. You can share these on social media. You can put these onto, again, you can share these in Joule announcements. There's a lot of different ways that you can share them, but also after you're done creating them, you can give them, the students will have access to whatever tools you create. There's no limit to the topics or the activities you could do with Padlet. Next is Canva. Now, Canva I've fallen in love with. So Canva it does have a basic account. I actually pay for Canva so I can get the pro account. So let me explain. So the basic account will give you a lot of free content that's usable. You can use it for newsletters. You can use it for image, if you want to create images and so forth. But Canva is a graphic design tool. It's online, so it's not like something like an Adobe tool where you have to download something or use something very extensive. Canva is very user-friendly. You can pick it up and pretty much create it. If you see something beautiful on Facebook or on Twitter, if you see a really cool graphic, there's a good chance it may have been created with Canva. So Canva allows you to do a lot of different things. One, if you remember the advertisement that I shared through Dr. Harkness, that advertisement was blue. It had a nice graphic interface. It had Notre Dame colors, created through Canva. So I actually developed this through Canva. It's fairly user-friendly. There's a lot of tutorials on how to do just about everything. What can you build on here? I actually created my first self-published publication on it. It was a 60-page book on using digital games during the COVID-19 pandemic for teachers and for parents. They loved it. It was a cool way of actually publishing something. You can use this for menus. You can use this. I used to use this for advertisements. If you want students to express themselves differently than just writing an essay or something like that, if you want them to create something like an infographic or something that's really visually appealing, Canva might be a consideration for you. And again, they have a lot of great tools. They can add their own images in, and they can put text into them. Sky's the limit with Canva. It's one of probably my top 5 tools. Okay, so good old YouTube. So I will admit YouTube sometimes gets a bad rap because although you can go out there and find a lot of garbage, it is a very useful tool for connected educators. As much as you'll find all the terrible resources out there and all the crappy content, you can go out and find lectures pretty much on anything in any topic. If you want to learn about quantitative research design, you can go out there and find it on YouTube. If you want to find a lecture on information, and like research or pretty much any topic, you can go out there, and if you have the time to vet content and find really good materials, all you need is a link, and you can share it with your students. It is one of the best tools for connected educators because there's just so much content on there. Now the trick is after they view it, you don't want to give them like a 45-minute to an hour long lecture, or they'll go to sleep. They'll be bored of it. They won't process all the information they're getting. So try to make it interactive. If you're going to do an activity where you have a group that's like doing collaborative notes, or they're somehow analyzing the content of it or anything, the sky's the limit. So YouTube is one of those tools that is really almost universal for any content area. Religion, you're going to find tons of sermons on here. You're going to find everything, pretty much every topic. So YouTube is definitely a benefit. You can also create channels and playlists. I signed up for a Google account. I have a YouTube account. All I do is I can go in and learn how to use YouTube. I can upload content and share it. And it's the funny thing, I can go to YouTube and learn how to actually do that. YouTube is great for tutorials. If I want to learn how to do something in Canva, like I just showed you the tool, I'll go to YouTube or Canva, but likewise, it's mostly hosted on YouTube. So YouTube has really become this just amazing resource where you can find almost anything nowadays. Okay, now, if you really want to focus more on video-based content that's a little more academic, then TED Talks are probably the interesting thing to look at. Now, TED Talks are a non-for-profit organization that's really about is about spreading ideas in many different arenas to different people. People sometimes will watch TED Talks for leisure. It's hard to believe that the first TED Talks were held in the mid-'80s. So they've been around for quite a while. If you go in there, there's going to be content on all sorts of advanced hot topics. There's racism and cultural competency. There's creativity in schools. If you're a fan of education, we just lost Sir Ken Robinson just over the weekend. He did a wonderful TED Talk on if creativity is being killed in schools. It was a very popular one. We just lost him anyway. It just reminded me of his TED Talk that was very elegant and just really helped educators kind of question and how they could change education for the better. If you're interested in technology, you can learn just about everything you can about artificial intelligence. If you're interested in climate change, you're going to find all sorts of resources out there. It's easy to share. You can also customize and create your own lessons using TED Ed, which is basically you take a clip that you find on there and you can create your own activities around them, questions or essays or other materials. I've used TED. I like to actually do things with TED afterwards where we have a discussion, a Socratic seminar or something. But the nice thing about TED Ed, it'll allow you to share a resource, a video, and then do activities outside of that video. So this way they're processing the ideas that are shared in TED or TED Ed. Again, pretty much any topic. I will say it's not as expansive as YouTube. However, the video quality is much better, and they have a wide variety of topics. The nice thing is they're all free too, so they're not going to charge you arm and a leg for things. So that's TED or TED Ed. Okay, so I'm going to get into some of the Google tools. The first is Google Slides. So this right now is PowerPoint. I'm using PowerPoint to display this presentation to you. However, Google's used all their different Google Docs and all their other tools. They've created Google Slides. Google Slides is a almost like a PowerPoint Lite, but the benefit of it, it's hosted online. So instead of having your software on your computer or hosting your, having this PowerPoint presentation that you may have to put the Joule or something like that, instead, it's accessed through a link that you can share with your class. And the nice thing about this now is Google Slides now allows you to embed audio onto each clip. So if you can record your voice, you can actually add it to each clip on Google Slides. If you want to sign up for an account, you just sign up for Google Drive, and Google Slides comes for free. The nice thing too is if you have old PowerPoints, you can drag them into Google Drive and convert them into Google Slides, and then of course share Google Slides. So the nice thing is you don't have to recreate all your old PowerPoints. You can just convert them into Google Slides. So it's nice. And if, let's say, vice versa, if you have a Google slide that you want to give as a PowerPoint presentation, you want to send it to somebody, but you don't want to just share a link or something, you can also then download it as a PowerPoint presentation. So Google Slides is extremely helpful. Now, I will say this, it doesn't have a lot of the advanced designs or a lot of the same features as PowerPoint, but Google Slides is definitely worth its weight in gold when it comes to online learning, because you're able to share presentations freely with anybody. You can also, let's say, for instance, you have a teaching assistant, or you're doing a collaborative activity with students, or maybe the students are working in groups. Rather than passing back and forth a PowerPoint presentation, what they can do is they can actually start a Google slide and they can actually develop it in their homes. This is actually a great tool for remote learning, because they don't have to keep on sharing files and, oh, this file doesn't work on my computer. Google Slides will work on any computer that has the web. All right, so far going well. Okay, so I'm sticking with Google as a theme now, and that's Google Forms. So, we spend a lot of time filling out surveys and polls now. Google Forms is Google's version of a survey or poll. You can go in here and you can create your own form. It takes just a matter of minutes, and you can share it with an audience you can do it through email, or you can create a shareable link. The nice thing about this is it collects all this information. So let's say, for instance, you are giving your students a little bit of freedom on the type of topics that they want to pick. Sometimes you do it through email. Sometimes that can be really like a struggle to actually get all that information in one place. Google Forms can be a one-stop shop. You can actually share this link and collect a bunch of information that you're asking to your students. I use these for exit tickets. I sometimes also, if allowed to, you can actually use these to build quizzes. If you want to build these for quiz practice or quiz, Google Forms now allow you to create a quiz where it'll actually, you create your own answer key. It'll answer things in multiple choice. You can also do all sorts of other questions, multiple choice, true or false, short answer, long answer, etc. Where they can write paragraphs. It won't, of course, grade that. You'll have to actually manually grade it yourself. But for Google Forms, again, it's great for collecting information from your students. I used it so I could collect my students' goals for the semester. So they gave me some SMART goals that I'm going to then share with them, at the very end of the course, and they're going to see how much they've grown over the course, over the time of the course. And again, all of these tools, I know I'm kind of brushing through. There are 20 tools in 60 minutes, so I apologize. But if you want to learn more about the intricacies of how to use each tool, if you simply do a quick search, you'll be able to find pretty much anything. So get ready to do a YouTube search on how to use Google Forms. And typically you'll find an 8 to 10 minute video out there that's going to teach you how to do absolutely everything from creation to distribution to your students. Okay, so again, I mentioned about Google Quizzes. So when you go to Google Forms, it's going to give you a choice if you're going to do a form or if you're going to do different now, a quiz. And again, you can go through here, build it, create it, and then share it with your students. It will self-grade, so it will actually grade the content if you create the answer key correctly. However, if you have like qualitative types of questions, or if you have short answer questions or something like that, you'll have to manually go in and finish the grading process. Once you're done, you can even program this to give them feedback right away, or you can keep it hidden until you share it on your gradebook or whatever.
Ryan?
Yes?
I apologize because I haven't watched your Joule video yet, but does Joule have an assessment feature?
Yes, it does have a quiz feature.
Okay.
You can build it, and we have been told in Brightspace that a lot of the tools will migrate over, but you never know about how easy it is to migrate content over.
So it may make more sense because we're switching to do it somewhere else.
Yeah. So with Google Quizzes, I might not do like a final exam on Google Quizzes, but if I'm doing a chapter quiz or something like that, or I'm doing some sort of short form quiz, or I'm doing like an anticipatory quiz where maybe I'm just trying to like establish prior knowledge with the topic.
Yeah.
I might do that. Something that's really more formative assessment rather than something that's going to be on the books. Google Forms or Google Quizzes might be the route to go.
Okay.
You know, Brightspace is going to have its own like assessment tools to use.
Okay.
And you know, that might be a route to go. But again, Google tool. The nice thing about Google Quizzes, it's going to be around after Joule sunsets, and we accept Brightspace. So it's really up to you how you want to use it.
Cool.
Yep. No problem. You're welcome. Okay, so Flipgrids. Flipgrid's another tool that's really become popular with the pandemic. Now, Flipgrid allows, I'm going to just say students, but teachers and students to hold online discussions, but instead of just typing text, it allows them to actually share small little video clips curated around a certain topic. So for instance, I asked my students once, this was a class of Chinese exchange students, I asked them, share your passions. And I asked them to share in both English and their first language, so this way they could celebrate their language. What I ended up doing is I created this channel, which is a place where they go, and it's actually called a grid. So in this grid, what happens is I can go here and then I can find all of their different video conversations. So let me stop sharing and reshare. So this way you can actually see the videos. Here we go. So here you go. And these are all of my students that recorded a response to my question. And the nice thing is too, is that I can also require them to respond to each other. Out of privacy and respect for them, I'm not going to hit play because these students are actually technically not my students anymore. So to respect their privacy, they only put their first names. But the nice thing too is Flipgrid will allow you also to give them feedback actually in Flipgrid rather than just Joule. Now, would I use this again for assessment or doing some sort of massive grade? No. Or you can just grade them outside of the system, outside of Flipgrid. But this is a great tool that's other than just the simple text-based discussion format that they put onto Joule. It's a great tool. It's typically all you have to do is really create this grid, and then you have to share with your students. My students were pretty much up and ready to start working on this in about 30 seconds. So Flipgrid is awesome. It is free, and it's very user-friendly. They can use their computers, they can use their phones, they can use their tablets. So it's very bring your own device friendly. So stop share here. And then I'm going to reshare my screen again. Okay. Can everybody see the PowerPoint again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes when you go back and forth between different windows, sometimes it gets lost. So I'm glad that this is back. Okay, so anyway, this is Flipgrid. It's free. It's a great tool. It diversifies ways in which you have your students express themselves and their ideas. It's video based, and it's pretty user friendly. It's pretty easy to pick up. Great way to get to know the learner. Great way to get them to introduce themselves. Just a very practical way to promote engagement in your courses. Okay, this one's a little bit of a stretch, but it is very interesting. In fact, it's based on, if you've ever seen Dr. Sugatra Mitra, he came up with the premise of the self-organized learning environments. So it's this is a free app where it's this self-organized learning environment starts off with a gigantic, like a big question, something like, what kinds of cereals are healthy for us? Once students have spent a few minutes digesting and discussing the question, they move into the investigation phase, where they work in small groups to research answers to the questions. The final phase is review, where each group presents their discoveries to the class as a whole. Although you don't need an app like this to run a SOL in your classroom, Start SOL is free. It offers a few tools. It offers you like a bank of good questions to ask. You can also filter it by subject area. It offers a lesson planner that helps you to build a plan for your SOL activity. It also offers you some project management types of tools, like you can project something on a screen. You can show students which phase you're on, how much time is left, etc. And also there's teacher-created tools that support the SOL work. Some people have, they're very have almost like free form classes where they really want the students to have their own like self-organized learning environments. They might just be a little more flexible in their teaching philosophies. This might be an opportunity for them to seize the self-organized learning environments, because it's almost like they set their own, I won't say set their own goals, but they really do their own research, and they produce content based on a topic that you may curate for them. Anyway, Start SOL. Okay, so Vocaroo. Vocaroo is a tool that allows you to do voice recordings. It is free. It does not require you to log into it. You go to Vocaroo, you allow the microphone to record your voice. You record it. When you're done, you download it. It's a great online tool, number one, because if you want to narrate your presentations, if you want to provide your students with something else rather than just reading your text, it is definitely a different modality for the information that you're presenting to them. Some instructors do podcasts. This is a very easy and cheap way of doing a podcast, sharing your voice. The nice thing too is these audio files are much smaller than video files. So they're much easier to share. Let's say, for instance, I'm sharing a 5-minute video. It may be way too big to email to your class. This, when it's done making a file, might be just 4 or 5 megabytes, which is very manageable and you could send to your class. So what could they do? Well, number one, you can record your micro lectures. You can, again, if you want to share content in a different way, if you want to, if you're doing creative writing, or if you're doing creative storytelling, that's something to do. And likewise, your students could instead create their own podcast or create their own audio recordings if they if you need them to do, if you want to do something other than just grading or assessing some sort of written content. Again, Vocaroo is free. You go visit Vocaroo, you can record it. I've only used a laptop. I haven't used a phone or a tablet to record. I don't see what the problem would be, but I would definitely test it if you're going to try it first. I do have a question I'm going to answer in the chat. Oh, just
Bye.
yep, no problem. Oh, we just had somebody had to leave. No big deal. Okay, so anyway, Vocaroo, definitely one of my top free tools. It's very helpful because it changes up how you give content to other folks. And also, it's easy for them to submit it to you, too. Okay. Grammarly. Grammarly is a godsend, especially if you're in a PhD program or if you're in a graduate program and you don't have a wonderful wife who will read your papers, and as wonderful she is, after years and years of this, she'll get bored of reading your content. Grammarly helps you to scan and find errors in your writing. It is free. I will say this, there is a pro account that I actually pay for because it's worth its money. It will help students to not only scan their assignments for content that, the language mechanics or spelling errors, it'll also help them to write clearer. So there's clarity checker, there's an engagement checker, delivery if you're trying to deliver something in an informational way or persuasive way. You can even change audience if you want to share it with an educational audience, or just a general audience or knowledgeable audience. You can share it in many different ways. What it does is it scans your document and it provides an analysis report. It gives you almost like a general grade. So let's say, for instance, I put this up there, I put this 2-paragraph little blurb up there. It'll scan it. I may only get like 90%. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me advice and suggestions that I can either accept or decline. If you pay for the pro features, which, again, if I have students, there's plagiarism detection, which, it's different than Turnitin, but this is great because it's more like for personalized improvement in the writing. This has absolute wonderful applications for just about any class. If they're doing discussion posts, they may want to scan it with Grammarly first to find all those like little hidden mistakes. We all suffer from perceptual blindness. Even if we train ourselves, we still sometimes miss all those little errors that come in. The nice thing about Grammarly is it doesn't miss that. It helps you to find those errors, but it also helps you to then fix it. It also, again, helps with the behavior of actually editing papers and revising content. So Grammarly, again, free, wonderful. It is something I share with all of my students, especially if they have to write a lot of research papers. It prevents them from making those silly errors. Another question. Let's see, another question. Is Turnitin a dual feature or a separate app? It's technically a separate app, but there is a connection with it. That's something you'll have to reach out to the FRC, to Crystal Holder-Smith, to ask about, because I don't really use Turnitin a lot because I don't do a lot of research papers. So make sure to contact the Faculty Resource Center. Okay.
Thank you. And
no.
and are these apps all good to use both on tablets and computers?
They're not all. I try to differentiate which ones are good and which ones aren't good. Pretty much all tools I've shown you, I think, so far have been pretty safe to use on everything. The next one, I think, Screencast-O-Matic, which is not this one right now, but the following one, I've never used it on a phone, so I don't know if you can actually do it that way. It may just be a laptop. All right, this one.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. So this one's EdPuzzle. Now, EdPuzzle allows you to take like a video from, say, for instance, Khan Academy or TED or YouTube. It allows you to take that video and you kind of embed it into EdPuzzle. But what you do is you make the video into something more interactive, as in say for instance, you want to ask like 3 or 4 questions to make sure the students are following along on whatever video you found. If you put it into EdPuzzle, what you can do is at, like, say for the 3-minute mark, you can ask them a question. And then the 4-minute mark or the 9-minute mark or the 10-minute mark, you can ask them to answer a question. It could be multiple choice or true or false or just to fill in the blank. So again, just a few more students can create their own lessons. If people only buy the teacher, EdPuzzle offers a library also of the free teachers created lessons too. It's very helpful. Also, you get analytics, so you can actually see how they do. It is free for individual teachers. And of course, if your department wants to invest in something like EdPuzzle, and the other one's called, oh my goodness, it's Padlet, I think is another tool. It does very much the same thing. You take video, you curate, you ask questions around it. But this is a way to make video a little bit more interactive than just having them consume information from a video. It's called EdPuzzle. It's free. I do suggest you do a little bit of studying on how to use it. I haven't used EdPuzzle personally, but it's a very useful tool if you want to make video interactive. Okay. Now that we're doing a lot more online learning, it may come a time where you have to give them intricate instructions on what to do. That's where screencasting is helpful. Screencast is where you actually record your screen as you do a process. I use it for when I teach my students. I do a gallery walk of my Joule page, so this way they see how to do absolutely everything on Joule, how to turn an assignment in, how to how to access links, where to look for when it comes to due dates, anything that they have to look up. What I typically do is I create a screencast. This way they can see something. Screencast-O-Matic, what it'll do is it's free. It'll record your screen as you work through a process on your screen. So let's say, for instance, you want to show somebody how to, to type. Okay, you type a paragraph. You show them everything. I hit the space bar, then I started typing. Oh, I have to capitalize this letter, whatever. If there's anything that you have to record on your, desktop, you can use Screencast-O-Matic. Now I'm going to tell you this: it probably only works with laptops or computers. I don't think it's going to work for your iPads or your phones. If you want to use something like on an iPad, there's an app called Explain Everything. That's probably the best tool to use.
Ryan, can I ask you a question?
Yep. Was it you in the chat? Oh, go ahead.
Yep. This is another question though.
Okay.
So I just recorded on Zoom introduction to one of my classes and kind of walked them around the Joule page and explained how to do certain things with the course. But I think I used up a lot of the Joule cloud space when I did it, because I know we have limited cloud space for Zoom, right? So would Screencast-O-Matic be a better way for me to do that? Okay,
so there's a lot to unpack there. It all depends, I think, on how you set it up. If it's something like a 3 or 4 minute video that you just showed them, that's typically not that big of a deal. It's when your files really get large. Like if you're gonna share something that's a 30-minute long video, that's a really big file.
Yeah.
Screencast-O-Matic actually will allow you, I don't even know if it hosts anymore. They used to allow you to host it, but it also allows you to download your screencast. If I do a screencast, I typically will host it on YouTube, because then I don't have to worry about it. I just go and find the link and I share it. But you can share it to YouTube. You can, you can obviously also download it. It's called an MP4 file. So it depends on how you set it up.
Okay.
But to get back to your question about Zoom, if you took the file and put it into Joule, it should work. Do you know how long the file is, or how long the video is?
Yeah, it was long. It was a long one, so it was like 12 minutes long because it was a very complicated course. There was a lot of elements to it, so it took a while to explain it all. So I shared my screen and went over each thing and recorded it.
Okay.
And it plays fine on the Joule, on my Joule site, but I didn't know if I shouldn't be doing that because of all the cloud space I used.
Yeah, I mean, Joule's different than Zoom, as in when it comes to cloud storage. It's more of like Joule performance. And again, I'm not judging at all. It's, if it works, it works, and that makes it a win. But if we have like everybody on campus trying to do that, then Joule's just going to lock up like an engine that has no oil. So what I suggest just in the future is, if you get comfortable with using YouTube and host it on YouTube, or if you have a Google Drive, you can actually put the video up in Google Drive and just share the link with your students. That way it's not it doesn't use any space on Joule except for a link. It uses Google Drive. It uses your space instead. So that's probably 2 easy ways of doing it. If you have Dropbox, you could use Dropbox. Any place where you can host the file online. Because
I didn't even realize I had done that. Like, I thought Zoom was storing it in the cloud for me somewhere, but I guess it's not.
It'll store it for you, but then again, it's it won't publish it for you. So you can load, you can save it to the cloud, but it's just storage. It's not technically online for somebody to access. You have to put it up for like on a video hosting site of some sort, or you have to put it into cloud storage to where your students can then download the file, like Google Drive or YouTube or Dropbox or something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But if it's working on Joule, I would just say it was fine.
Okay.
But I wouldn't put like a full class lecture of like 50 minutes on there. It will it'll start to bog down Joule right away.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem. Okay, a few things. This is very similar. So this is called Pictochart. If you've ever seen infographics and are interested in infographics at all, maybe if you're doing research or you're into, if you're a math teacher or something like that, infographics are great because it uses, it gets you to share data in a rich and visual way. You use a mixture of text, images, and numbers to really produce an interesting story of just about anything that you want. Pictochart is free for the basic version. There are other pro accounts that give you a lot more. But if you have a student that wants to do some sort of persuasive presentation or wants to share something instead of just doing the old, the mundane report, or doing something that's very, basic or traditional, building an infographic is a very cool way of presenting information. It's also great to use instead of like a slide deck for a presentation, is just walking through the numbers and showing you exactly it. These are really popular on social media. On Facebook, you'll probably see a lot of these. On Twitter, you'll see a lot of these. It's just a great way to send a lot of visual information in a small file. Once you're done, you can download it as an image file. It'll probably allow you to do a PDF version as well. But again, Pictochart, just another way for your students to express themselves in a different way. The final tool I have is Live Binders. Now, if you go through and are doing like big projects, or your students are trying to collect and do a lot of different things, Live Binders allows you to collect, organize, and embed lots of different types of content all in one online shareable space. So it behaves just like a physical notebook with tabs and subtabs that can be open and closed. Each subtab stores a separate page or piece of content, and the options for what you can include are staggering. So you can type paragraph or a page of text. You can choose multiple layouts that can include mixed images or text columns, even just a title page. You can upload any file that you want, or any image or any PDF file. You can put them all into a binder section. You can embed video, for instance, if they put a YouTube clip up, they could put it on there. Or if they build something like, I don't know, other resources that are out there that you can embed, like a Padlet or a Prezi presentation or a Google Doc or something, they can also embed those in pretty easily. So this tool would be perfect for organizing like whole units of study if you want to create them yourself. Say if you want to develop like your own like free booklet for your course, or if you want students, if they're writing something like a capstone project, Live Binders is a great way to do it as well. It's a great way to share a lot of content, and it's, again, same way, the basic version is going to offer you free resources. The pro account will offer you probably more tools. You have to do a little bit of research on them. But Live Binders is great. It's great. It's free. It does allow you to do like learning logs or e-portfolios or massive journals, or you can publish your own Live Binder as almost like a supplemental resource for your course, or even as a multimedia version of a course textbook. So there's a lot of different applications. So that's my presentation. I took you to 58 minutes. Are there any, I'm just going to hit stop share, and I'm just going to stop recording right now. And I'll answer any questions that you have. So let me hit the stop recording.